Hi, my name is Cal Evans. I've been attending here at Bonney, Nazarene for quite a few years since I think we moved here in '67. We moved here from California, and I was at that time in a lot of trouble for my parents. I was always getting in trouble. I was an Army brat, so I never completed a year of school in any one place. In fact, my mom was on a first name with probably every principal of every school I attended because I was constantly getting in fights and trouble. Anyway, we moved here, and about that same time, another family moved here from Oregon, who had been also, they had also been a big part of this church called Mayfields. And there was a girl, I remember we sat behind them. There was one girl that I remember she was really kind of tomboyish, at the same time kind of a feminine way. And I was kind of smitten with her even back then as a 12 or 13-year-old boy. And little did I know that like 6 years later I would end up marrying this girl. And that was a big moment in my life, to say the least. Especially, I guess you could say we were unequally yoked. I was a troublemaker, and she was a goody-goody church girl. And to get back to where we started in the church, when we first moved here, this shows you how far back we go in the church. My father actually helped build what used to be the sanctuary, now we call the recreation hall, the rec hall, back then, in the early 70s, I think it was. And then I had helped, a generation later, helped build the building we're in now. I worked on the foundation of this building. I was off work at the time. So we have a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved in this church. Anyway, even after we were married, Deb and I was still out of trouble. I was still revolting. Even though I'd been raised in the church, my parents brought me to Sunday school every Sunday, whether I wanted to or not, dragging and kicking sometimes because I didn't want to come. But I remember there was one lady that really affected me early on in life. And I don't know why she was teaching a junior boys class, but her name was Irene Arntz. And that lady was a saint. No matter what we did, she was always kind and caring and loving to us. And that always stuck in the back of my mind about how much she loved and cared for us, even though we were terrible to her. And there was a foundation laid there of love that I think helped me along later on in life. I knew all along from the early teaching and all the way through my teen years that I had to make changes in my life, because I had the foundation of being raised up in the church and knowing what right from wrong was. I know what Jesus was all about and what God was all about, but I was still kind of revolting. Well, something happened in Deb and I's marriage about 6 years in. Deb got pregnant with our first child. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Randy Langley now is my oldest daughter. And when she was born, something changed in my life. I knew I had to do something. I knew there was a different way I couldn't be the same person I was. Well, Randy was probably a year, maybe a little older than a year, and she was having a rough night. So Deb brought her to bed with us, and she was sleeping between us. And I had this terrible, terrible nightmare. I dreamed that, how many times I sat there white-knuckled in the back of the pew, fighting not to go and make a commitment. But I dreamed that I'd finally come a time to where I was going to make a commitment to Christ. But it was too late. And Satan wouldn't allow me to go. And there was definitely a spiritual battle going on that night. It got to the point where I truly believed that Satan and his demons were in that room. And because I physically could not move. It was like somebody was holding my arms and legs down in that bed. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. It was all I could do just to breathe. There's such a struggle going on. And all of a sudden, Randy, you got this little whimper, and it just broke the spell. That very night, I woke up, I got up, I yelled at Deb and said, Deb, I need to accept Christ in my life right now. And right that moment, she scooped up Randy and we went into the front room, and right there on our living room couch, I bent my knee to Christ and dedicated my life to him. And from that day on, I guess it kind of reminded me when I first fell in love with Debbie. You know how when you have that first love for guys and gals have that first love, they just want to spend every waking moment with that person? Well, that's the way I was with Jesus. I instantly fell in love with him. I could not spend a waking moment away from him. Nothing but reading his word. I wanted to tell everybody about him. I freaked my coworkers out, because here's this guy that they knew to be one person one day. The next day he comes in, he's a totally changed man. And I guess that's probably the first real miracle that I'd ever seen in my life, but how he could take a broken person like me and, he started putting me together. And I could feel a difference in my life, a purpose in my life. And I knew that nothing was ever going to be the same. And I also think of Deb, how patient she was. She waited 6 years for me to turn my life around.
Yeah.
And she prayed for me constantly and never gave up.
Yep.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a miracle. I mean,
That's
so I guess the example is to those women who are out there who come to church on their own and have been praying for their husbands, don't give up. It might take 6 years,
right.
for them to turn around, but just don't give up.